We are live. Welcome to Hack Shack Studios. RT Bear here with my dear friend Adam Post. We are going to call this the Art Adams stream.
Yeah, the Art Adams Show. Welcome to Art Adams Show.
Yeah.
Talking about fun comic-related stuff.
Yeah, good, fun, comic-related stuff. Not that stuff we were talking about just before we went live. We were talking about doom and gloom and World War III and mass suicide, crazy ass shit. But we're not going to talk about that, right, Adam?
No, that is not what we're here to talk about today because that's not really happening. Nothing bad is really happening. Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, and we weren't talking about that stuff anyways.
We don't care about that stuff. Well, we can't. Maybe we care a little bit. I'm going to share this on Twitter. Let everybody know that the Art Adams Show has begun.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for the last couple months about doing an Art Adam or Art Adams. I said Art and Adam show. So,
yeah, it is Art and Adam, but it's also Art Adams.
Yeah.
And then we're going to see if we can get Adam Friended hooked in for the next one.
Yeah, then it would be three Adams and an Art. That would be the show called.
What would be two Adams and an Art?
Two Adams and an Art, yeah.
Give or take. But I'll show the Adam Hughes covers. So that
there would be a total of three of us. And then, we'll throw Adam Hughes in there. And then maybe even Art Adams. Then we'll have four Adams.
Is he available?
He's always available.
Not Neil Adams. I don't like his attitude lately.
I like Neil Adams because he's absolutely bonkers. I go to cons and I just ask him a simple question and I get an hour response. And it's absolutely hilarious.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And WonderCon was on Twitter. Yeah, WonderCon was last time I talked to him, and I think I just asked him a simple question, and it ended up taking about 45 minutes to get the answer.
That's funny. I do that to people sometimes, so I can't really, I can't complain.
Yeah, but his stuff is absolutely bonkers. Yeah, but it's all entertaining and fun.
Art, have you heard the good news?
No, brother. What is it?
Mermaids are our lords and savior. That's what I've been working on lately. Mermaids. First it was zombies. Now it's mermaids.
Yeah. It looks great, man. I checked out
Thank you, brother.
The site. It looks amazing. We're gonna get into that, and we're gonna show everybody. If anybody hasn't heard, Adam Post has a new book called Mermaids, and it's fantastic. The artwork. Is that a DC guy? I've seen that artwork before. I may have even inked this guy. Who's your artist on that?
Oh, that's funny. The cover is done by Jerry Gertrudia. He did a lot of the designs of the mermaids. And when I started on the project, I hadn't been publishing comics. And then a friend of mine who I had to have dinner with every Wednesday night in New York City. Well, Art's over there and Adam's over here. She put it together. I mean, it's right there on the screen. Art. Okay. I mean, come on. Now this will be a long shot if you get the pun. No.
Okay.
Anyway, every long shot is
Art Adams.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Wednesday nights I was kind of having dinner in the city every night with a comics editor, old friend of mine, and he's like pushing me, get back at the comics. And I was like, I don't know. And the industry had changed so much. This was kind of like the before 2010. What do you call that? The late 2000 noughts or something? I don't know. Something like that. So Jim was like, do it. And I'm like, all right, fine, I'll do it. And he's like, look, I'll help you if you want, because he's an editor. And I got into it. And then the first thing I found was this great character designer, Jerry Gertrudia, who did the mermaids character designs. I found him on Facebook. And he had been doing fairies. Like all the fairies looked really unique. They looked really well done. And they looked like that thing where it's like when you draw a fantasy character and then a few fantasy characters of the same type, but they actually all look like individual characters. That's not easy to do. So I was really impressed by that. So I was like, all right, I'll hire you to do a few of these mermaids for me. And then that kind of like jump-started the character development process for me. So it's like, well, I know I want a mermaid that would have like these daggers. I know I want a mermaid that would have sai, but I also want a mermaid that has like an octopus bottom instead of a fish bottom. So we got kind of messing around with that. He did such a beautiful job on those character designs that we wound up having him continue. I just had him continue doing more and more character designs. So then we hired a couple of writers for me to collaborate with. And I'm like, look, what I really want to do is I want to do Game of Thrones with mermaids. I've been working on a mermaid project actually with Jim Shooter, believe it or not, around 2002. I had an idea that I wanted to do like a mermaid that was kind of like Splash meets Clueless type of thing. So we wrote a treatment that was going to be a treatment for a graphic novel, but then I liked the treatment so much I was like, well, let's just do some more treatments together. So I never actually got to do that project, although I did get the treatment done. And anyway, so then I was like, all right, Game of Thrones with mermaids, let's just do it. Let's get into it. Let's make it happen. It became such a huge project without a deadline that we just produced all this work, all these character designs, this tremendous world. And the result of all that was the Mermaids comic, which I've had complete for the last few years now. And finally, I got a chance to publish it. So I'm very psyched about getting the book to people's hands and seeing it finished and printed like that.
So is the main artist, has he worked for DC? Because
No,
it's real familiar, because I could have swore the style looks a lot like an Aquaman fill-in artist that I worked with, and they were breakdowns. It wasn't the cover artist; it was the interior guy.
Oh, the interior. David Lorenzo is his name. You want me to share you the screen to show his art?
Sure, sure.
I don't have it in print.
We'll go to the Indiegogo page too, so you guys can see the whole.
How do you share screen on this thing? Only kidding. I've done it before, but it seems like every time I'm doing it wrong, or I'm scheduling the show. It's like, all right, I'm going to do the show in 10 minutes, and VileNet is always like, so this is in 24 hours and 10 minutes. I'm like, no, it's in 10 minutes. I'm always doing it.
There's a little box that says screen share.
Yeah. The screen share we got, right? Yeah, that's happening.
You have the whole campaign here too. Okay, so
yeah, because his pages are on the campaign.
Okay,
so he did the interior sequential art, David Lorenzo. Now I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's the stuff right there. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, he might have.
I'll tell you right now, if he didn't, he's got a doppelganger, the exact layout, the same style.
Oh, wow.
He did breakdowns, and I did finishes over him.
Wow.
So I never got to see his finished pencils, but this looks a lot like that artist.
I really like his expressions, his storytelling. We do give a full script to the artists when they work, but they're still very constrained on the books that I choose to do a 6-panel layout on. And this is another one of those. So this book is going to be like an 8x10 book, so that the art is big on the page. Different from a typical 6 5/8 by 10 1/4 or 7 by 10. So it's going to be an interesting presentation of the work. But yeah, he did a great job. I really like you know how difficult it is as an artist, like to get the characters to all look different, but still like of a piece, because they're all these mermaids in this fantasy world.
They all still feel like they're in the same universe.
Yeah, right? They all feel in the same universe, but you can really tell like which character is which. Of course, the coloring is helpful for that too.
I think that's horrific when she turns into that. What is that thing?
That's this character, Queen Leith. She turns into a shark, and they don't mostly do that where like their head will change, because we want to. You got
like a shark dog.
She's a shog. Yeah, well, I think she's still in process of changing. It's pretty monstrous.
Yeah.
You know what's funny was, I think it was the splintering guy was asking me. He's like, "What is it with you with having women like getting chewed up in your art?" I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even think of that." Because in College of the Dead graduation day, there's a girl that's getting on this cover.
On the cover, yeah,
eaten up by zombies, and she's mutilated. I don't think women should be mutilated. I don't think so.
Adam, you got the page. Show it again.
Oh, the art. Okay. Yeah, okay. This one's still in demand also.
So that's
immediately.
That's 2 arms and 2 legs, right?
2 arms and 2 legs. This poor girl.
Yeah.
Well, she's getting one of her legs. One of her legs is fine. One of her legs is completely fine. Her boobs are untouched. Which is a shame. Look at those things. That's a shame. Somebody should be doing something. And then the arms are eaten up. But yeah, I don't do it deliberately. It just kind of works out that way sometimes.
It's always an arm, though. At least an arm.
Yeah, at least an arm. An arm to start. And this is another one of those projects that I just like to have these things complete by the time I'm offering them, so that with everything else that goes on in life, I know I can kind of ship it on time as promised.
So when were you thinking of shipping?
Well, this one's going to ship April 2021, if not a little bit sooner. It may be a little sooner, but
Cool.
it's always good to give people an outside date and then try to hit that, beat the date if you can. So this book also has this Making of the Mermaids book, and this is another one of my 100-page making of books. And I created this format because I really love the process of making comics. I'm very, very big into seeing this stuff kind of come together. So we've got the full script. We've got the rough layouts from David on the interiors. And then we also feature another 20 of these full-page illustrations from Jerry of the Mermaids.
Those things are really cool. They're kind of like Alphonse Mucha with the design around the figures and stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, people seem to like that Mucha effect of Jerry's, and that's not something I asked him to do. He just kind of took it upon himself to make them, extra super cool. And then I was going to do like just a few of these to kind of get the project going, and they just came out so cool. I just had him keep going and going and going. And we tried doing some sequentials, but his designs were so awesome, and the sequentials took so much time that I was like, let's just keep doing designs, and he was happy to do that. And then we also did another 30 plus paragraphs of story to describe the relationship of the characters, because it's such a huge cast. And all those paragraphs are going to be in the making of book as well. And then, of course, to give people an option to check out College of the Dead, because we've got the College of the Dead books available as well for people that didn't get a chance to get them in the past. So that's an overall overview of the project. And the project centers around one character named Jonna. And Jonna starts out as a simple teacher and then becomes an unbeatable warrior. This is kind of her journey. Jonna thought she had nothing left to live for until she discovered her new purpose, revenge. And that is that shark maid that she's going after.
Okay. What's the difference between a teacher and a simple teacher?
Well, have you been a teacher before?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah. A simple teacher is sort of like, Luke Skywalker is just a farmhand kind of guy, just hanging out doing nothing. And then all of a sudden he's sort of saving the galaxy.
Oh, okay. Okay, so there actually is a term simple teacher.
I don't know. I mean, I might have created it, which if I did, I should register that domain.
All right, trademark right now.
Trademark simpleteacher.com.
Boom.
It's a moneymaker. This also has another one of those famous epic trailers by Ted Segar. I'll go ahead and play it if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, please.
Here we go, baby.
Wow. No, don't do it.
Simple teacher no longer. There it goes. Epic, no? Epic, yes.
That looks great, man.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, I mean, in a way, I really feel like maybe I should have the trailer, say, well, it's 48 pages. It's an epic journey. And I'm like, well, I just love these big theatrical trailers. I just find it really interesting. And if it's something people like, boom, they can back a featured tier,
So I'm gonna screen share. I want you to go over the tiers real quick. Let's see. Okay, here we go.
Okay. The tiers are really straightforward. There are 4 covers, and there's the making of book. So we just made this up the other day because I realized a lot of people do like Jerry's 2 covers, the mermaid with the daggers. Her name is Feigning, and the mermaid with the sigh, and her name is Enki. And they all have, crazy mermaid names like that. And so there's a feature tier that we set up now that has the cover, the 2 covers by Jerry, and we've got the making of book. And then we have the individual dagger cover, and then the mermaid swimming. That one's by Javier Aranda. He's the guy who did the art on College of the Dead. And then we have Jerry's side cover. And we have another one by Javier with the 2 mermaids together, mermaiding around with some really beautiful color. I mean, Farah did an amazing job on the coloring. I am blessed to work with some great, great people. And then we have the set of one of the Jerry's, one of the Javier covers, and the making of book. And then we've got the complete
is that the featured? Is that the 3
books? I had that as the featured tier, but then I realized, there's people who really like the 2 Jerry covers. So I made a featured tier with the 2 Jerry covers and the 1 making of book.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just kind of mix them up from time to time. I also do these as add-ons, so that people can kind of mix and match whatever it is that they like. And then there's the complete set of all 4 covers plus the making of mermaids book. And we're funded. I'm really happy that we're funded. There's another 12 days left on its first 30 days. And the main, thing with offering this that it really reminded me of was like, I've got to really start building my own channel. So I've come on with you, and I appreciate the opportunity to come on with you. Of course, RT Bear, to talk about the mermaids. But for me, I need to build my own channel. We all need to do that when we're publishing. So everybody should be building their platform. They should be building their YouTube, their social media. And I've been having fun with it, streaming every night on AdamPostSpeaks.com.
Oh, I've been checking it out. The last couple shows you've done, really fantastic. Like I was telling you off air, you really get into the meats and potato of these subjects. And I think out of all the comics gators, you probably have some of the more insightful observations about these things because you're coming at it from a business standpoint. And I really like it. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad I could contribute a little bit to Comicsgate. It's done like so much to be able to get me to be able to make my books and do what I want to do. And yeah, I mean, there's some stuff like I'm watching this, and like the AT&T deals are so interesting with them making the decision to distribute all their films to HBO Max, or 17 films to HBO Max for 2021, as well as movie theaters. And I think it makes a hell of a lot of sense for them to do that, even though everybody is pissed off at them. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it makes good sense for them, business sense for them, but it also is changing the way we basically get our entertainment, so everything is going to shift and change. I mean, people are speculating about it right now, and it just sounds like, oh, well, yeah, no problem. But I mean, the reality of it is beyond most people's comprehension of where we're going to come out of this pandemic. Yeah, it's going to be fundamentally changed our way of life. I hope people know that, because it's scary to try to wrap your head around it.
Yeah, it makes it even more important about our relationships with customers directly, our direct to consumer, as well as our collaboration. The direct to consumer aspect of like, all right, if customers like my zombie book and they want to try my mermaid book, that's awesome. I don't need to go to a distributor who just recently, Diamond, for example, recently getting, I don't know what's going to happen to them. Hopefully they'll do fine, but getting that big change with DC pulling the book. Oh, thanks, Shadowhawk. Yes, back the mermaids twice and often. Once is, the minimum, but twice is preferred. But yeah, I mean, could you imagine you're selling your books through DC like Peter Simeti was doing with Alterna, and then all of a sudden Diamond can't pay him because now DC is not distributing through their company anymore, and they're affected by the pandemic and all these other things happening. You can't rely on this shared distribution anymore. You can't rely on, all right, well, we can all just push our stuff out through one company or 2 other companies, and collectively it just kind of works. Doesn't work like that anymore. And what we do with collaborating and sharing ideas as publishers, is tremendous. You giving me feedback on something I'm doing, something you giving you feedback on something you're doing, and then all the cross-pollination of ideas. Adam Friended has helped me a lot with my YouTube. He's given me a lot of advice, and so has other guys too. Other guys too giving me advice about YouTube, but also we're discussing stuff about publishing. I was on the other night on Billy Tucci's channel with a few guys. Graham was on, Graham Nolan. Peter was on, Peter Samedi, and then Jim Palmiotti was on for a little while. And I knew Jimmy from very early 1990s. He did a little bit of work for me for Personality Comics and hadn't seen him in a long time. He's talking about how he's thinking of not continuing with DC very publicly, actually saying, well, why should we do another Harley? I'm telling my wife, like, why should we do another Harley and, bother building up their company when we're not getting, paid for that? And, we should at least make some money because of the movie. Like, wow, sounds like he's either not getting offers from DC or he's like really absolutely ready to go another direction. But some of what he was talking about and some of like the way we were discussing like mailing lists and dealing direct with consumer, it's kind of clear like he doesn't have Comicsgate type relationships, with other publishers to collaborate with, because some of the stuff he was asking about and talking about were just things that, we've all kind of known about for like more than a year, it feels like.
Well, I've been out there on my own and it's really, really tough. I mean, Comicsgate really is the way. This is fantastic. I mean, independent publishing's been around forever, but not like this.
No, never like this.
We're all kind of helping each other out. And people can say whatever they want about Comicsgate, but this is the most generosity I've ever seen in my 35, 36 years in this industry, because people are just sharing because they realize it helps. This helps Adam. This helps me. It's like it's the perfect kind of symbiotic work relationship, because it keeps everybody honest at the same time, everybody generous and giving. You know what I mean? Because it all comes back around. Maybe not in a direct way, but it eventually does come back around.
The indirect is a very short fuse. Like I see Simon Simpoitier in the chat. Simon is doing a lot of his own stuff now, and he's got a campaigns coming out. He shipped his first campaign already, and he was very supportive of me when I was first getting into Comicsgate. He interviewed me and he introduced me to Red Gaze, who was a great guy. So kind of like when you see their stuff out there, you remember those guys, and then you also realize that much more like, oh, I gave a suggestion to this guy, that guy helped me here. I interviewed this person interviewed me there. It's an intricate, like self-sustaining network. And it really pays to be a good guy and to respect everybody and appreciate them.
And you know what else? I never feel like I owe somebody something either, because we all just do it. Like, how like sometimes like somebody will do something and you just, I got to make it up to that guy. And in a normal conventional way, it's hard to then help them out. Like sometimes it's impossible. But here, all we have to do is say, hey, come on my show, or I'll just do a show where I promote your book, stuff like that. It's so easy. Like I don't even have to ask permission to help you, Adam. I did the other day where I had, Mermaid, when I was talking about your show. I was a little tipsy.
You were drunk.
I did my best.
No, you did a great job. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen anything like this. Nobody ever is like, you owe me. I mean, there are some, and Ethan talks about them, like they come in with expectations and they think like somehow they deserve something or they're owed something. Well, Malin's got the best quote: grab an oar, build something, come in, share it. So that's also, Adam, when you were talking about building your channel, that's why I want to build my channel. It's for me, but it's also for everybody else. Like I can then help other people. So the bigger reach I can get, then I can help others as well. And so I do think the reason this is going to sustain and continue to grow is because there's tiers. There's entry level, there's middle, and then there's like people up here. And so those people that are entry level will eventually become the middle tier. and they'll eventually become the top tier. And then it just keeps feeding on itself. So it's, as long as we don't get, crazy and territorial and do something drastic, I mean, within Comicsgate itself, the outside world, whatever, what I mean?
We don't have anything to do with that.
We're used to those people hating us, but there's multiple reasons why they hate us. One, the political thing, but not everybody in Comicsgate is, Republican. And then the other is just that it's incredibly successful, and they're trying to figure out what to do. The industry is changing. DC, Marvel's changing. So they're kind of like still, they have X amount of years invested in that way of doing business. And so now all of a sudden, within a short period of time, they have to reevaluate their entire careers. It's not easy to do, man.
Yeah,
and so I think inevitably this is going to keep growing, man. We got Kenneth Ricafort, who's a freaking brilliant artist.
He's an amazing talent
coming in. We got Graham Nolan. I talked to a bunch of people, off the air,
what is it sense you're getting? They're very curious.
They're scared.
Mm-hmm.
They do it tomorrow, but they don't. They're unsure, and some of them feel like if they leave Marvel or DC, that they're not going to be asked back. But my thing is, asked back to what? Like, what is there? I mean, at this point, it seems like the decision is easier to make than it's ever been.
It's really speculative. It's really weird because the big companies have made decisions that are not based on money for a very long time, except when it comes to cutting expenses. They will cut expenses, but then they will look at it and they'll say like, well, if we do some milestone series, because that's good for movies, because of representation, because of this, because of that, not that Milestone wasn't good. We even did a black superhero at Personality Comics before Milestone. Denny Cowan did the cover, Rescue Man. But anyways, I wouldn't know what to think. Like if I was a professional comics artist, to think like, well, yeah, if I play my cards right, are they going to be doing? Like, are they even going to do Green Lantern 2 years from now? Like, who knows? How do you even know what they're going to do?
Yeah.
Versus you're producing, your idea. Or I think there's another tier potentially in Comicsgate, which is being able to give people steady paying freelance work, and good paid freelance work. So that like if people have schedule available, like, all right, well, maybe you're not publishing your own book and you don't have your own idea, or you're just comfortable, you want to just do art and you want to follow a well-written script, then is there paid work for that person? Right now I've seen different people get freelance gigs in Comicsgate, but it would be interesting to see other talent come in and like if they're not getting something right now from DC or Marvel or whatever, like just do a 48-page graphic novel, with me or you or whoever else, is out there.
Well, I think somebody like you, because you're geared up to do projects and many projects, and you can oversee. You're in a different position than I am. So I think somebody coming in more as a publisher, you're in a position that you could hire a lot of people. Eventually. You keep getting the success, you build it, in an organic way that makes sense. You get yourself financially, in a solid place, and then you can start expanding. You can start building, because then you can afford to hire people and build it that way. I'm going to do the same thing, but there's still like for me, it's harder. It's just a mental thing because I don't want anybody doing the stuff. I want to do it all. You know what I mean? Like I want to draw, write, ink. I'll color it. I want to do everything, but there's the reality of the situation. It just isn't. So if I'm going to stay in this market, I need to be more productive. You know what I mean? Like what you're gearing up to do and things like that. So I actually have been talking to other Comicsgaters about partnering on projects, things like that, because, like we were talking about the many hats, you can only do so much. And so 2 years being in Comicsgate and in this arena, I realize, that you can only do so much. Like this is it. This is as much as I can do. So if I'm going to go beyond that, I'm going to have to start partnering with people. I'm going to have to get vendors coming in and things like that. But it's all going to be art directed through myself, Hashtag Studios. You know what I mean? So it's always going to be like the Disney Studios. It's always going to have a level. You know, like your stuff, Adam Post, is always going to be art directed and overseen by you. So there's going to be a standard. There's going to be a certain level that your books are always going to have, and on top of that, a voice. That's one thing we all have to remember. We're doing independent projects. One of the things is we kind of want it to be popular. So you might want to, you know, like, well, it's kind of like this story or this idea or this, but really these should be your vision, because all we have
be unique.
Yeah, is your unique point of view. So, you know, when you guys are coming up with comic ideas in the future, stuff like that, think about that. You know, like, you want it to be popular. So, you know, you might want to, you know, like, it's kind of like this or it's kind of like that. But really try to figure out what your voice is and bring that to the work, because also that, along with the mission statement, is going to help you in the long term. And I want to put this out for you, Adam, and this is going to be me stumbling around in my own way of asking this question, but I think all good businesses and even governments, if there is a good mission statement at the get-go, like there's a good overview of where you're going to go. Like the reason the United States works and Mexico doesn't is because Mexico didn't have a clear overview. You know what I mean? Like our forefathers built everything like 200 years, you know, like we're still going, and that those rules and that outline that they had still fundamentally fit. Walt Disney, when he created Disney, there was certain fundamentals that were there in the company. The reason it's not doing well now is because they're completely deviating from it, but he had certain things built, and those were ingrained in every aspect of the industry, and the people that respected that built upon it. The people now at Disney, I don't think they really respect it. I think they're just giving it lip service, but I don't think they respect it. Same with Marvel. Like, Marvel had a great mission statement, and I think they've deviated from it so far that it just doesn't work anymore. You know, it's not resonating, it's not connecting. So do you feel like you like to get a business, you have to have a pretty good overview?
Well, yeah, I think that you want to have there should be a strategic purpose, and it's not like a change the world type of purpose necessarily. But, you know, Marvel is a good metaphor because everybody's pretty familiar with Marvel. And I know, like, in the 1980s, I know what some of Jim Shooter's concerns were from, you know, having talked to him a few times. And one of his concerns were he wants to make sure that the books all ship on time, but not like, well, I hope they ship on time. Like, no, they're going to ship on time no matter what. And his launch of Valiant 1.0, when he was launching Valiant, all those books shipped on time. That was one thing. The other thing was that they had a common aesthetic. So they had a common experience. So the Marvel look, the Marvel feel, the Marvel storytelling, the Marvel vibe that people loved in the movies most recently, that was part of the original Marvel vibe.
Well, even they published a book called How to Draw the Marvel Way. Like, it wasn't how to just draw comic books. It was how to draw a Marvel comic book. You know what I mean? I think businesses now call it a culture. Like, you know, like there's Pixar, the Pixar culture and stuff like that. Well, there was definitely a Marvel culture.
Yeah, that's part of the aesthetic packaging of what the product and the experience really is. You know, the world outside your window as well, where it kind of had that common look of, there'll be one main fantasy element, but the rest of it is very grounded. You can kind of understand what the heck it is. But that's packaging. You know, it was very deliberate. I know when Shooter went to Valiant, he decided he wanted to make all the books a little bit taller. So they weren't 10 and a quarter. They were like fractionally taller. Maybe they're, 10 and a half or something like that, so that they stood taller on the stands. The word Valiant was always to be written in all caps, you know, and he would not, and they don't do that now. They could care less. But the word Valiant would always be written in all caps. He had the editorial pages where he would reach out to fans and kind of tell you what was going on in the office, and also his, global view of things. But the aesthetics, from the visual presentation, from the storytelling to the scripting to the experience you would have reading a Marvel comic, making the decision to keep prices that the comics were affordable. We have a super chat.
Yeah, well,
chat always interrupts. That's good.
If you don't mind interrupting.
Yeah, by all means.
Sheldon Martin, $5. Thank you so very much. A random question: how many action figures, statues do you own? Merry Christmas. I'm gonna let you answer that first, Adam.
Why? I only have a few action figures, and I never really got into statues. But I always loved action figures, and I love Johnny Phantasm, and I'm really happy for Patrick that that's successful.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool. Those action
that's something, because it's one thing when Ethan does something like that, because he has such a huge base, and also we're all like, everybody in CG is pretty excited every time Ethan says, "Hey, I'm doing something." We're like, "What the hell is it?" And then he, excites us about it. But to see Patrick succeed right away off of a relatively small base is fantastic.
Yeah, and in the Comicsgate green room, Ethan's been dropping some statues and some stuff on us, and man,
usually it's a day or two ahead of whenever he puts out.
Yeah, you guys ain't
when he's ready.
And there's some crazy stuff. So as far as I have one like really coveted statue, and well, I have two actually, but one's not quite a statue, and so I'm really choosy about that stuff. And it was a Dark Knight. This is years ago. Statue. So it's kind of the Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns. So it's the big hulking, Batman, and he's hunched over, and he's taking a knee, and then Robin is in front of him with a slingshot. The Robin with the slingshot, and then he's pointing like, shoot it over there, and it's, oh my gosh, it's brilliant. It is so brilliant. I just packed it up. I got like tape on it this thick, so it won't get broken in the trip to Texas. But holy shit, that thing is still one of my favorite. I had a couple of them when I worked over at Marvel, and this shows you how much I like the Batman one versus the other ones. Is I have a Spider-Man one that Mark Bagley and I did. We designed it, and a Green Goblin from Ultimate Spider-Man. And those two are all busted up. Like, I have them, but they're all broken and stuff like that, because I just didn't take care of them. So you can kind of see where my mindset is there. And then the other one I have is it's a Nightmare Before Christmas. It's a big, it rotates. It's like a wind up. What do they call those? Like music boxes. And so all the characters kind of animate and stuff like that. But it is a statue, so it was all sculpted and everything. Wow. It's really cool. It's about this tall, and all the characters kind of move around and stuff like that. So we bring that out for Christmas. And so I think it's just those two. As far as action figures, not really. I'm not really an action figure guy. I kind of am a Captain Action guy. That's like the 60s. I think it was the first superhero action figure ever to exist, and it was the first Spider-Man license ever. And it was kind of a G.I. Joe character figure, and then you had these costumes, so he could become any character, any superhero. So they had all the Marvel, DC licenses and stuff like that. I think even DC Comics did a comic book series based on Captain Action that I think it was Jim Shooter. I think it might have been Jim Shooter's first writing assignment, and he worked with Gil Kane on it.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it's a really good comic book series. But I have some of those vintage, and they re-released those a couple years back, and so I worked with that company, did a bunch of designs and box designs and stuff for them. I think some of them are in the Oodles of Doodles and Other Stuff too book. So thank you, Sheldon. That was a little bit of a detour, but
that was interesting.
Fun stuff.
Yeah. So my point on it is if you're going to take away the writing style, the art style, the possibility that, like, you could buy the whole line. I remember Shooter was saying he was really happy with Valiant sales at the time, because they were within 80% or 20% rather, they were all selling kind of an equal amount. because he had cultivated deliberately the objective of, all right, I want you to pick up this entire line of books. He also made sure that when they were doing books, that a certain number were coming out every week and that it would be consistent. So he wouldn't dump like a month's worth of books all out on a Wednesday, even though they could, because the response to that would be they wouldn't sell through, and then people would pass on them. And then once they pass on them, they'd never buy them. But the respect for the system and for the fan was incredible. And then also the storytelling aspects of like making sure that people can understand what's going on once you read the first couple of pages. And for him, it was all this collected wisdom over all the years of working with all the greats of like, well, we do things a certain way because it works. And the only thing with him, though, was that type of system allowed for people to perform within that framework, but it never would have permitted Todd McFarlane to develop, to do, say, Spider-Man #1.
Right. So, that's what I was just going to say. Like, it seemed like there was a little bit of a house style, and you guys had Barry Windsor Smith over there. And I think that he kind of dictated somewhat of a house style, right? Because a lot of the books, I think he did the first crack at the designs too, didn't he? And then most of the books kind of aesthetically had that look.
Well, I know, Barry Windsor Smith. Now, I wasn't part of Valiant, but
I thought you worked with.
No, I knew Shooter a little bit during those days of right after Valiant, because we were talking about funding his new company when I had my Personality Comics, because we had a lot of stuff in place and we could potentially do something. And before that came together, he got a deal from the Defiant guys. But he and I worked together a little bit in the early 2000s on him with a couple of treatments for me and some development for me for stuff that has not come out yet, it's interesting stuff. It's some stuff that's very classic. I think there's some of his best work in it. I really like it. Some of my best ideas and his best work. But anyway, Can I
tell a Jim Shooter story real quick?
Yeah, please.
Okay, the thing about what you're saying, it is great to have that kind of mission statement overview and all that. But I remember when I was a young artist, and I actually challenged Jim Shooter right there at Marvel on the turf, man. I remember it was in the hallway, and he was giving me kind of like the standard kind of lecture about everything. And so he was like, no zipatone. He's like, no breaking panels. He had a whole list of stuff, right? And I said, no breaking panels. I said, you do comics that break panels. He goes, I don't like it. He goes, okay, when you go to a movie, you're watching on the screen, right? That breaks the panels. And all the action, everything fits right in that square, right? And I go, yeah. And he goes, well, that's the way it should be. And I said, well, what if a movie theater, the character could actually jump out of the screen? Would that not be the coolest thing in the world? And he goes, and he just walked. Because I was like, we can do that. We can have characters jump out of the screen. They can't do that at movie theaters yet. I mean, there's 3D and there's but I was all like, why would you limit? Because I'm a young guy and I'm just like, I want to do everything. You know what I mean? Like, I want to have characters breaking panels. I want to do everything that I can possibly think of. I don't want to be limited by anything. And here this guy was like,
oh, that's very funny.
Movie theater. Everything works within that. Because he did like word balloons that went beyond, like everything had to
keep it in the borders
within that borders. And so I just said that, and he just shook his head and walked away. But he's right. In a way, we're both right? Because there's really no.
It's just a different style, it's also in terms of presenting stuff. Because I did that with the Mermaids also, and it's presenting stuff in that frame is part of the suspension of disbelief, because you don't want to take the reader out of the experience of being in the story. You want them to forget they're reading a comic. And sometimes if you open a page and it's like, wow, this is freaking amazing, that's great for visual presentation. but how is it for storytelling? Because you want someone to lose themselves in the story. I believe in breaking panel borders, especially if it's not part of a line, because Marvel's part of a line. So if you really let everybody do the storytelling any which way that they feel is the most dynamic, I mean, what do you get? Ultimately, it's not, things are presented very differently. Almost if you can think about like All in the Family and the Jeffersons and those spinoffs, they're kind of all very Norman Lear, like they're all very presented the same way. One of the most incredible examples is if you watch the original Twilight Zone, and the way the work is presented is incredible because it's done by some different people who put the project together, obviously different actors, but you really get the experience that you're immersed in that world. And I don't get like the willies or whatever, like you get like, oh my God, that's freaking me out. Like in the back of your head or whatever it is, you feel it. I really don't get that same feeling from anything but the Twilight Zone. But the Twilight Zone can do that to you consistently, or at least they can do it to me consistently. Right. And that's part of like having that common aesthetic for the presentation of the material. But you definitely lose something, and that's part of the sacrifice. And this goes back to your point before about like, well, look, if you're going to be in a business, don't you need a strategic objective? Don't you need a mission statement? And no one's going to accidentally produce. Those old Twilight Zone episodes are freaking incredible. Yeah, and I haven't seen it done since. And then when you see like they've remade the Twilight Zone, they're sort of like, well, they're creepy, weird stories, but it's not framed. I mean, they could update it. There's any manner of ways you can update it. We have color for now on, and I don't think that it was black and white. I just think that the utilization of music, they probably had some common directors, but that they have just the way that Marvel has the, how to draw comics the Marvel way. They have, how to make. Rod Serling had his views, and I'm sure if I did a little research, I probably know this already. But I'm sure he's
even trying to sell, like he was playing down the weird and stuff like that. That show it didn't wear it on its sleeve. Like now everything's like in your face, like, oh, it's weird, it's strange, it's out there, like the Twilight Zone was just kind of very matter of fact. It wasn't like, even the intro and stuff like sight and sound and color, you know what I mean? Like it was trying to kind of
for a moment. Yeah. Into a world.
Yeah,
very much like our own, but not quite the same. You've left mainstream comics. You're publishing yourself, and now you're speaking with someone else who's done the same. This is an episode of the Art and Adam Show.
Adam Show. That was very good. Yeah, I wish I could get that as a soundbite and promote our show with that.
This will be recorded, so we can do that.
Yes, but we're in agreement, and I think as a CG creator, or as an indie person, if you're going to try to franchise, then you should kind of have some kind of overview for right or wrong. I mean, like I said, I was just kind of a rebellious kid, and I remember, there was a side of me that was like, how to draw the Marvel way. What an ego. Yeah. Like this is, oh, there's more than one way to draw a comic book.
Well, honestly, it's funny because whenever I'm talking comics business, I'm always making a reference to Shooter because he's a common metaphor. People kind of, sometimes you have a personal story with him. But I have a lot of respect for how he, made an approach where he was like, well, look, if you want to get nuts, I've now created the Epic Comics imprint. That's your own IP. Go do what you want to do. We'll do profit sharing with you, but that's for you to do what you want to do. And he even let Bill Sienkiewicz do what he did with Elektra Assassin, which was a Marvel character. So it's sort of like, how much more accommodating could you be? He also, unless I am getting history wrong, he was the one that fought for royalties for comic creators, which is why John Byrne, I think, bought a house or two or something like that.
Actually, DC
had it first.
Yeah, and Marvel never called them royalties; they call them incentives because they never wanted to guarantee the creators were going to get a royalty.
Yeah, as if it was an advance against.
Call them incentives. And oh my gosh, the contract just to get paid if you flip over the payment voucher,
yeah,
there is like all kinds of legalese. There's like, it's just stuff like there's 4 paragraphs stuff that are like a little, space like this, and it's all like you give up this, that, the other thing. So then the thing is, this is why they're so evil, is to get paid. Your voucher is a contract. You know what I mean? Like your voucher isn't just like I did so many pages, whatever.
When you think voucher, you mean check. Your check is a contract.
Yeah,
it's physically on the check, right?
For the money, you had to fill out a voucher, but on the back of the voucher.
Okay, that's
by signing your voucher, you're agreeing to all these restrictions. You don't own the characters, you don't get any, royalties, blah, 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 whatever it said in the back. I remember a lawyer friend of mine, I showed it just as we were at a party. I go, check this out. I go, would you ever just advise anybody to sign this? He goes, oh my gosh. He goes, you sign it. I sign it every time. Every time I want to get paid.
Yeah.
He goes, I would never advise anybody to sign this thing.
Oh, that's funny.
So there's some crazy shit, but yeah, I think like what we're doing, what you're doing, your art directing, you have like the Mermaids is a 6-panel kind of setup. So there is an aesthetic language that your books are taking.
Yeah, I probably won't do it. I mean, this was something I designed that I had an idea to do this prior to Comicsgate too. And Comicsgate is more about individual expression of an artist and writing as well, but really art first, kind of like Image was, art concept and art first. And that's the first thing people are going to look at. And it's the first thing you're going to see, because even a badly written comic with great artwork is going to be something people appreciate, versus even a great comic that was written really, really well, but the artwork was executed terribly, or even everything is perfect except the lettering. Well, still you could throw it away. And why is bad lettering so terrible? It's because it takes you out of the experience of just reading the freaking comic.
That was always Jim Shooter's thing. That's why he had those restrictions as well, because he never wanted to take you out of the experience.
Yeah, and the experience that you got from reading Marvel Comics at that time, there was really nothing else like it. And I know Valiant was in that kind of realm, but of course didn't have the history, and then with Shooter leaving, didn't have the longevity. But if you're producing something like that experientially, where it's like, and we do it a little bit with YouTube, where if you back my book, if you back Art's book, if you back Ethan's book, Shane Davis's book, you're also going to get to know us a little bit personally, and you're going to interact with us experientially. You're going to have a different vibe with us than you would when you're picking up a book off, the stands or some graphic novel at a bookstore, because you're not going to get to meet and know the creator and know that, when you back a book and it goes up by $35 or whatever it's going to be, you are a part of a really deep part of the process as a backer. So it is different experientially. But I think that a mission statement's good, and you have to be open to feedback as well. I've always said, like, I love the idea of introducing different ideas and then doing sequels. A sequel is appropriate if people really want more of it. So the Mermaids is planned as an ongoing series, but people have to love it. If people don't love it, then I don't get to do it, as endlessly for the next 100 years. We already have College of the Dead Spring Break, which is the 3rd College of the Dead book underway. And as I get closer to having it completed, then I'll start sharing more of the art and what we're doing on it. But I have other ideas too. I want to do a couple of superhero characters that I've had in mind for a long time, and some other cool things like that. And then there are different things that are, CG aesthetic in terms of the subject matter,
right.
And I know Patrick is doing some superheroes, Patrick Parnell. Ethan has Snowman launching tomorrow from Matt Martin. But I think we can do anything in CG. I think literally anything is possible. But it's good to have more of a plan than like, hey, let's just do anything. And then also,
and I think that everybody individually should think about, if they are going to franchise, like, what is their voice going to be?
Now, when you say if they're going to franchise, define what you mean by franchise.
Well, they're going to have multiple books out. They're going to become a publishing division. They're going to have several IPs, things like that. I think you can do just, one and dones and maybe not have an overview. But I do think that if you have an overview, and I'm still trying to figure out what mine is, like what my voice is going to be, because I've never really done this before. But the only thing I can guarantee, like if Hack Shack puts out a book, that I maybe just come up with the idea, but I don't write it and draw it, it's sure as hell going to have a standard, that's going to be my standard. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to have an aesthetic. It's going to still have, my approval on it, because I'm not going to do anything that doesn't meet, that criteria. And so that's all I know at this point. So if I do things, it's going to have to be, where either I'm still part of the process, or the people that I hire are on a certain level that, meet what I want to do with the publishing company, that have the aesthetic value, the aesthetic look, or written values of what I'm trying to say. Because I am kind of, my voice is just good, clean fun. Like, that's all I want. Like, I might do something darker or deeper, and it's not that I can't do it, and it's not that I don't like those things, but I kind of like just good, clean, action adventure. And it could be horror action adventure, it could be sci-fi, it could be straightforward superhero, it could be a Western. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. But that would be the criteria, is always, just kind of good, clean fun. And maybe we could push the envelope every once in a while, but pretty much just kind of, I guess, a PG-13 or whatever level would always be. So I'm still trying to figure out what my mission statement is, as far as going forward. But I do know as well, because there are good examples. You brought Jim Shooter up. I'm a big, like, early Walt Disney guy. Like, I do believe if you can have a good overview that fits almost every idea, like if you franchised out to film or TV or trading cards or anything, that all those ideas and beliefs will be translated in each one of those mediums. Because Walt was like always, the best, do your best, put the best presentation out there. Don't cut corners. Like, everything, the guy hawked his house to build a steam with the steamboat for that river. Like, he put up his house for that, and he said we can't open Disney without that steamboat. So he put his house up. He put so much on the line for various movies, like personal funds, things like that, to finance these things, to gamble on his vision, his ideas, those things. And so, after a while of branding, then they become almost secondhand. You know what I mean? Like, you hope that everybody comes in and works for you later already has those beliefs and wants to continue those ideas. And
well, also, like, when you mentor people into a process, because you had people in a studio, you had people that you worked with, you told them how you worked, and you told them what was expected. And then, as inevitably, people always get off track, which is not like something to not expect, because that always happens to people. Then you try to get them back on track. But you can kind of see when you're working with people who is, especially if you have a group of people, there's people that stand out from the pack. There are people that stand out. And our my business, day business, is a telemarketing company with people working remotely, but still we have recordings of everything. We have stats. So when people stand out from the stats, they better be doing that because they're exceptional. If you notice somebody,
yeah,
in a good way. If somebody stands out in a bad way, then you have to, that's the person you have to have a conversation with right away and explain, like, hey, listen, you're slacking. This isn't working. You give them specific feedback, tell them what to do. But there are people that they just want to learn more, and they want to do well, and they want to exceed, and they're putting the work in, and they're there because they really want to be there. Not so much in telemarketing, even that, because we're human beings that want to do a good job. People tend to be good and they want to do well. But with art, you can see, like, people that really have, talent, they have motivation, and then also that their personal situation is such that they can keep their promises. and they can do a 16-hour day if they need to.
And case in point, like there's been other people that have had proteges and that have worked with people, but everybody that came out of Hack Shack Studios, and I think it's not that I told them how to ink, but a mindset, a philosophy, ideas of what we're trying to do here, what you should do with your art. So those things all carried over. So like Jaime Mendoza came out of the studio. Danny Mickey came out of the studio. Tim Townsend came out of the studio. You know, Larry Stucker. There's all kinds of like A-list guys that have come out. Trevor Scott, you know, was the first hire over at Wildstorm. That Jim Lee, he took him right from my studio. Danny Mickey was taken right from my studio to work with Rob Liefeld at Extreme Studios. You know, those guys knew, you know, that they were the anchor or part of, you know, the culture at Hack Shack Studios, and they knew that they were going to fit right in there. So there's always been a level that I've put out there. Dick Giordano even told me, because he's had a lot of proteges and stuff, but now, like, you know, there was kind of like, I think Joe Rubenstein, there was a couple like really talented guys that came out of, you know, the Dick tutelage. But I think by far, you know, Hack Shack put out way more, you know, quality into the industry. And so that's what I want to do with the IPs as well. Like, I don't want to just pollute the landscape. You know what I mean? Like, I want, like,
yeah, and honestly, you really can't. We really can't, because I'm developing my own platform as much as possible, because everybody in CG, you, Ethan, Malin, like everybody has been really, really generous with me with helping to promote whatever it is I'm doing, you know, the retweets and all that other stuff. But you do have to kind of build your own platform, your own aesthetic, connect with people. And then when you're on your own platform and you're promoting your own project, that's where the rubber really meets the road, where people are like, you know what? I feel it. You know, I want to be there with you with this project.
right.
And I see that this is something you're really passionate about. And that's what makes a difference, because it's impossible to pollute the landscape. You know, you offer a project and it does really well or it doesn't. You know, people get excited about it or they don't. If they don't get excited about it, and you're far along in the project, well, that's life, and that happens sometimes. But that's one of the reasons why sequels are great. And when you're doing a sequel to something successful and you have black and white, as long as people aren't disappointed by your execution of it, you know, it's good, and they know you're not going to disappoint them. You know, why would you do that? It's in CG especially. Like, I see people that you know, produce really good stuff, and then you know, sometimes some of the newer guys, it takes them a while to get their stuff shipped, and I know they're going to be shipping it. But some of the stuff I said to whoever's in CG who hasn't shipped their book yet, that's kind of running late, I've probably talked to them about it and bothered them about it. Not that I'm giving them a hard time, and their books can be beautiful looking books. It's just it has to be viable for everybody. You know, for you as the creator, you know, and for the consumer, that if they buy a book and they're expecting it, that they get it roughly when they're expecting it, so that you're in a position where you can do a sequel if it's been successful, because you've got, you know, you want it to be a career for us, for people who are working in the business. When I say, you know, I mean, like, we all want it to be, like, whether from backers to us other CG guys, you know, we want to see that book come out, you know, twice a year from some of these new, really great, talented people, and them making, you know, reasonably good money, and being able to go ahead and do, you know, the next book. Because even if a book does, you know, $100,000, if that book takes 2 years to get executed on and delivered, that's not enough money that creator could really, you know, do that as a living.
Right.
You just can't. It's not enough money. Conversely, you know, if I'm doing $30,000 on a College of the Dead book, that's profitable for me. And it's easy for me to say, sure, let's greenlight number 3 and make that happen. And then maybe even make that book a little more special, which I am, than book 2, and then kind of build off of that. But we had a studio too. And sometimes I forget that we had a studio at Personality Comics, even though we had, I think, 25 art tables. I don't know, it was a lot of guys. And
wow.
It got put together very fast. Yeah. There's a video I have on it, Personality Comics, on my channel. I think our most famous artist that came out of there was Adam Polina, who then got grabbed up by Jim Shooter for his Defiant company, and then he went on to X-Men and some other stuff.
I worked with him over on X-Men. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Adam's a great guy. He's really eccentric. He's out there, but
he's super eccentric and really talented.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a couple of various books for us in our studio, and then he did a Chromium Man for us, which Jim Shooter wrote us a letter congratulating us, and I published it on the back of Chromium Man, actually on the back of all of our Triumphant comics at the time. And then I guess Adam got snapped up by Shooter right after that. So yeah, I think the potential in Comicsgate's pretty much unlimited. A mission statement, it can be very airy-fairy. I mean, really, like, one of the other things about Shooter is I've seen, his business proposals, and they're very well thought out. Like, you're going to see the money that he expects to spend in the first 6 months of when he's launching something. And I've done some of those, and a business plan is good, even if it's like very back of the envelope basic. It's good to know like what you're expecting to spend before you're generating revenues, what you're expecting to sell, and then what you're expecting to do with the operation and build it, because expenses creep up really quick. That's one of the trickiest things that happen is when you have a little success, then you start assuming things and money starts going out the door for overhead and developing too many things at once. What is the super chat all about?
Yeah, it gets tempting.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Thank you so much, Michael. Hello, Arthur. Still not here. What? Still not here.
Is he waiting on a book?
Ultimate Chrono Mechanics tier, November 12th, UK, but still not arrived. You know what, Michael? Have you contacted us through Indiegogo? Contact and address it to Pamela, and she'll look into that. So I'm very sorry if that hasn't gone. I'm pretty sure it's gone out. So I have a feeling it has something to do with the shipping and the post, because all the orders have gone out. So yeah, just give Pamela a friendly reminder and let her know, and then she can look into that for you. So sorry about that. And you didn't have to give me a super chat for that, but I do appreciate it.
Yeah, a good way to get our attention is through Indiegogo, if it's about a pending order or something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because when we see that it comes from Indiegogo, we're always like, what the hell is this? Like, it's sort of a drop everything sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I tell people to do that as well, because it does take all of our focus. We're just like, yeah, okay, Indiegogo, we got to deal with this. And
that's another thing with that customer. Like, that customer is going to get taken care of, and this is so different in direct to consumer and CG than it is in dealing through comic stores and all that other stuff. Like, you'd never even know that somebody had a problem getting their book, or it got damaged, or it got lost or something. Like, creators never know what the heck is going on with that stuff. But through Comicsgate, we are we're that channel, and we also Kelsey loves our stuff. Art Adams.
Well, I want to read this Green Laser. It was our pleasure, man. My book didn't show. Art got me a new one right away. That's all Pamela. So I'll send the thank you her way. And yeah, you guys. I mean, we are nothing without you. So if there's a problem, let us know. We will look into it. My wife is way more conscientious than I. Like, this stuff drives her crazy. So she cannot rest until things are dealt with. So you guys are always top priority. And so if there is any problem, like Adam was saying, the best way is through Indiegogo. Contact us, and we'll take care of any issues. So what is this Kelsey Shannon stuff? Art Adams, love your stuff. Oh, wait.
I love this stuff too.
Yeah, but you know what? Wait till this Art and this Adam get together. Sure. When we get together, you're going to like that combination.
Even better. I think that's what he's talking about. He sees into the future.
He is a futurist. Yes. He's got that third eye, or whatever that thing is.
He doesn't show that to everybody, only in the back rooms with photos.
With photos, he always wears a hat. He always wears a hat over. Wait, let's see what else. I bet they don't even have a Monkey Man. Well, not yet, but we do have an O'Brien.
Yeah. If you have an O'Brien, you don't need Monkey Man.
Yeah, when you have an O'Brien, Kelsey's missing it. He thinks it's all about the Monkey Man. It's not about the Monkey
I
Man.
wonder if we could get Art Adams. It would be Art Adam and Art Adams.
Ooh, we'll have him do all of our covers, and I'll get to ink him again.
What is he working on lately?
I think he's just doing a bunch of covers. Like there's certain guys in the industry that I do envy, like our Adam Hughes, J. Scott Campbell, Art Adams, is because they're making a living just doing commissions and covers. Could you imagine? Like you only have to do maybe 3 or 4 illustrations a week versus like I don't
Tons of art.
50.
Tons of,
that would be nice, and those guys get top dollar, and all those originals, those things sell. They
really, really valuable.
Yeah.
On Facebook today, somebody was selling an original page of Barry Windsor Smith, or someone sold it for Weapon X, and Wolverine had just like, I don't know, there was a whole pile of people. He had just broken out of whatever that thing that they had him in, whatever the containment tank in. And it was a beautiful page, but it sold for like $170,000 or something. Like, not bad for a page.
Yeah.
Definitely not bad for a page.
I wish I still had some of that Art Adams Fantastic Four stuff. I worked on them way back when on some of the X-Men annuals too for Marvel. And God, if I had some of that artwork, we're talking 20,000, 15,000. Yeah, it would be good. And also, oh my gosh, I'm a little upset about this because this is still in. I'm probably gonna drop it, but I did a bunch of Danger Girl art.
Oh yeah,
with J. Scott Campbell on. I think it was issue 7, the final, and so he owes me 2 pages. I never got the pages back, art returns, and so I decided to hurt myself recently and look what those pages are going for. Tens of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
And so I contacted Jay and I was like, I never got my art returns. And he goes, you got your art return. I go, no, I didn't. And I said, is there any way we could work this out? And he said, well, I don't have them. And I said, so you sold them? He goes, well, then he had to backpedal. He goes, I'm not sure. And then I said, well, you had to. If I didn't get them, you had to have had them. And if you don't have them anymore, then you sold them. And then he said, I tell you what, Art, I'll pay you for those pages, those 2 pages that that you didn't get in art returns. I go, oh, terrific. And then he said, I'll pay you what they were worth at the time, but not what they're worth now.
Why doesn't he draw you a cover? That's a fair deal.
Well, that's what I asked him. I said, could we just do a pinup or something? I said, you draw it up, I'll ink it up, and then we'll call it, an even.
Yeah.
And he goes, no. He goes, no. He goes, I'm not doing that. He said, I'll pay you what the pages were worth, at the time, 10 years ago, 15 years, however long it was. And I said, at that point, I mean, it would be nice to have a couple $1,000s, but they were worth tens of thousands of dollars.
Well, if he sold them at the time, or if you had sold them at the time, I guess Judge Adam would say this, not Judge Art Adams, but Judge Adam would say this: take the effing money and hold a grudge. And then maybe you can cash in that grudge later.
I'm going to hold a silent grudge and just not even pursue it, because I don't like burning bridges. So I just figured he was kind of getting a little salty. Okay. So it's like, I'd rather just keep things, on the up and up.
But I hear where you're coming from on the, like, are you sure you don't have those pages? Like,
exactly. Yeah. So I'm just going to let it go because that's the kind of guy I am.
Yeah, it's probably the right thing.
Yeah, you never know.
Good. I blame Kelsey for this.
I blame Kelsey for everything. We should wrap this up, but I wanted to do.
It's been a pleasure, my friend.
Oh yeah. But I'm getting a bunch of the golden time cards back from you guys. I have this, so fill these out. If anybody that back Chrono Mechanics got a golden time card, fill them out, send them to me, and I will do your free drawing for you. And I'm going to set my camera up tomorrow. So if all goes well, I'll be doing a live stream tomorrow where I draw. So I'll be drawing those up for you guys. And I'll read off your backer numbers so you'll know that it's your image that I'm drawing. So I'm hoping that I'll have time to do that tomorrow. So yeah, you guys, if you get a golden time card, make sure you send it to me and I'll do that drawing for you. And also, Chrono is still in demand, so there's time to back a book. So please check it out. And if there's something you like, back it. Also, Adam's book, the Mermaid's book, is in the description. So go in the description, click on that, and go back a Mermaid's book today. Are you 12 days out, right?
Yeah, 12 days out on the first 30 days. We are funded, and I'm happy to get that book out. So yeah, check it out. Watch the trailer, and yeah, sharing on social media helps too. I appreciate you guys doing that. And tomorrow, Art will draw.
Oh, okay. Yes, and I will draw. I'm sorry, I'm getting a notice from my wife. So yeah, you guys, thank you so much, Adam, for coming in. Thanks.
Great being with you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem, no problem. And thanks for all the super chats, you guys. You guys are great, and I'll see you hopefully tomorrow. Go back, mermaids.
Mermaids it up, babies.